If you guys want, I can talk about the mailbox a little bit. 7:05,
Yeah.
so maybe 10 more minutes of the meeting.
Yeah.
Talk about mailbox. So done with robot.
Yeah.
So you should have a really visible emergency off, so someone who doesn't know anything about it can kill it in case it decides to go over a cliff or something. Or it ran over it.
You'll be able to tell because it'll catch the brush on fire and you'll see the fire.
Yeah, I know. I know, that's actually a problem in our neighborhood. So, gotta be careful about the nuclear powered mailbox. So, so the mailbox, I already demonstrated it. Basically, it's just, the way it works is a light sensor. So, there are many ways to do it. You can do it any way you want it. And again, I wanted to learn something new. So I wanted to build a self-contained unit for making the mailbox work. So there's actually a light sensor that, if you look, so I don't know if you look, there's a closely on the back. There's actually a little tiny round thing in the middle. I just had to sort of drill a hole in the mailbox, and so the light sensor is mounted in this box. This whole enclosure can just be removed from the mailbox, and it works fine. And the idea is just detects when the mailbox is open, mailbox is closed. So let's see. You have mail. And then close it. So basically, it's way more complicated than it should be. This is actually more complicated than the robot. Let me just open up the back and show you quickly what it looks like inside. So like I said, it's solar powered, internet connected, which turns out to be the most expensive part of this whole thing is the internet, the Wi-Fi board, which was $85 or $89.
There's cheaper solutions now.
Are there?
Yeah.
This was an Arduino Shield,
Yeah.
which was a convenient one.
Yeah, it's really good. They have actually, you can buy a microcontroller with a Wi-Fi shield on it for $9 now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
$6.
But is it compatible? I mean,
$6,
part of
they're
what I
not
like to do,
certified.
let's turn it on its side. And flip this.
That's right.
Screws are on. Yeah?
Why is there always lights on it? On.
Well, they're not normally on. They will turn off soon. They're only on when things get activated. And that helps to debug the system. So if you're trying to make it work, it really helps you to know what's currently being activated. But they'll turn off soon. They turned off now. So I don't know. It's probably not that easy for you guys to see, I guess. But basically, this is. Let's see if we can aim it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna try to aim it so people can see it. Just to give people let's lift it up and see. So there are actually two Arduinos in there, if you can see. Two Arduinos and some relays and some other things. Try to aim it the other way. We have two Arduinos and some other stuff. And then some other stuff even mounted on here. I have a power amplifier here with speakers that I got from birthday cards. You guys ever got those goofy birthday cards that talk? I have 3 speakers that I salvaged from those, and which is how the talking works. That's a power amplifier. So leave that turned all the way on. Yeah, so that allows them to be louder than they would normally. But so basically this is just kind of ridiculously overpowered for what you need. But the reason is because of power. So the basic architecture is an Arduino. I think it's an Uno. No, it's a Leonardo. So the basic Arduino is a Leonardo. It's just one of the basic Arduinos that does the core, pulling of the light sensors and whatever and controlling stuff. And then there's a second Arduino, which I think is an Uno, that has the Wi-Fi board on it and has the ability to to talk. And then
There's actually 3. Here's that one.
right, that's true. You're right. There are more boards, and this one is just a power amplifier. So this is a simple. This is for just amplifying the power to the speakers. The speakers are loud enough to hear, because the Arduino itself can't power the speakers enough. They're not loud enough. And then there's there's a servo that controls this, and a couple of relays. So the reason for there being 2 Arduinos, which seems kind of ridiculous, but is because of power. When I first started this project, the mailbox is at the bottom of the hill. Right? There's nothing down there. There's nothing. There's no power. There's nothing. So I figured, let's build something that'll run on 4 AA batteries, right, for a year. I don't want to have to mess with batteries all the time. 4 AA batteries for a year. So I set up the basic Arduino. I had it working with the basic stuff, with operating the servo and doing basic things, not the talking and stuff, but just the basic things. And I measured the power output, the power usage, and those 4 AA batteries would last for 24 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, ridiculous. And that's
Ouch.
mostly doing nothing, right? That's the Arduino mostly just not doing anything. But the way, things are just cycling, it's just sucking power. So I spent a lot of time with a great electrical engineering friend of mine. We went over to his place and looked at our oscilloscope and power supplies and started looking at what's really sucking the power. What can we do? And I spent a ton of time getting the power down to what could be powered by this solar battery. And what it took was, I don't remember the numbers anymore. I did this presentation earlier, but when it's powering the servo and the Wi-Fi and talking, it uses something like, I want to say 350 milliamps, which is a lot. And when it was just idling, it was using like 50, which is way too much because the batteries can only supply, much less. And I needed to get the power down to like 10, right? Which is just a big difference. So to do it, I took several steps. I stole some software. Not stole. I borrowed. It's open source, whatever. Some software that worked on this board that basically shuts the board down completely. Literally turns off all the power on the board except for a watchdog timer that wakes up whatever frequency you want. So I have it wake up like once a second just to do what it needs to do. And set up some interrupts so that certain things like pushing the button would wake it up immediately. But basically it really totally shut the power down. And because of the fact that things like the servo just suck power all the time no matter what, I installed the relays so that I could literally the board just turns off the source of the power of the relays and of the second board, which the second board is the one that does the Wi-Fi and the talking. So literally that board is turned off. The power is cut off. There's no way it can suck power. And no way the servo can suck power. And the main board is shut down and only waking up once a second. And that got the power consumption down to about 5 milliamps, which was
Big difference.
huge. So got it down to 5, and it would wake up. It wakes up twice a day, right? When you get mail, when you get the mail back, and it sucks 300 for like a minute while it's communicating on Wi-Fi or whatever. But it's such a small amount that the battery was always able to be recharged. And from then, battery charged all the way up to full power, and it basically doesn't drop below full now, or basically pretty much always seems like it's 100% charged, but it took a huge amount of work to get that power consumption down, which is surprising and annoying. So anyway, so I don't know if that was a very interesting description of the thing, but whatever. That's why there are two. The fact that there are 2 Arduinos in there is because one actually physically gets turned off by the other one until it's needed.
You have the power on?
That's cool.
If you want to keep it charging, do it up in an adapter, then I think you should put a 2 generators and 4 the back ones.
Could use regenerative braking, that's true. But that's not going to be sustainable, so it would need to be, the main robot will have to be charged by house power for sure. But the mailbox, I got the power consumption down enough that it could actually live with just that battery, just that little power cell, that little solar cell, which is only about that big. And it's worked continuously for 9 months, 9 months in the wild now. So, oh yeah, and the only time it's failed is because of the infrastructure. So this mailbox, if you can imagine, I don't have a whiteboard, but you can imagine my house is on the top of a mountain, and the mailbox is down at the bottom of the hill, and there's a hill in between. So the mailbox can't see the house. There's no line of sight. So in order to actually get the mailbox to connect to the internet and be able to send me a text from my house, I had to build my office, a router up in the eaves of the house, connecting to a router down at our gazebo with a directional antenna aimed down at the mailbox. and then the mailbox is now on the internet. And the only failures I've ever had were actually the gazebo directional antenna router. Failed a couple times when it rains and I get ground faults. So the ground faults knock it out, but I can turn that back on. So the infrastructure for even getting it onto the internet is kind of ridiculous. And then it goes from there.
So it's 20
to
bucks.
my
20 bucks.
host, my internet host, to my cell phone.
How many million
It's a
hours does it
crazy
produce?
connection. But
This one, 27.
yeah,
Oh, that's
it works.
So do all your neighbors, are all your neighbors hoarding one?
What's the
You know, people, every time I show it to people,
Well, it's
people say,
USB,
oh, I want to buy,
because it's
you know, what would you,
for,
but it's like, this is a
So it's
$10,000 mailbox.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. I mean, the parts
That's pretty
were
good.
probably
Yeah.
$250, just buying them off the shelf or whatever, and my time was $10,000 or whatever, or more. So it's like, you know, to really do one, to really make marketable, I mean, what kind of mailbox do you have? People have mailboxes in their house, or you know, an apartment complex. So lots of people say they love it and they would like to buy it, but I don't think it's a commercially viable product. But this is, when you hear about the Internet of Things, this is a thing.
A question about the sensors. You say you have a light sensor every time you open the door. What is actually determining that you actually have mail? Because I mean, you could just go, someone could just come, open and close the door.
Yeah, you can just open it. There's no real determination of mail.
So are you just counting what, when the door shuts, it resets itself and assumes that?
Well, that's actually a really good question. So one of the other super interesting problems on this, and again, as me as the geek, but I don't know to you guys, but one of the problems with this is after I got it all built, and you know, I'd have it in my living room, and I'd be working on it and testing it, and the light sensor, you know, you get a value from 0 to 100, right? So you say, okay, 50. If it crosses 50, it's gone from dark to light, right? It's gone from closed to open if it crosses 50. Okay, maybe 50 isn't really right. Maybe it should be 35, depending on the resistors you use and whatever. So what's the number? Pick a number, and you get it to work, and it kind of works fine in your living room. And I go and install it out in the real world. And kind of works fine, but I found I was getting tons of false positives. I'd come home, it was always saying, not always, but often saying, you got mail. It's like, I don't have mail. What's the deal? What's going on? So I finally realized that, well, the ambient light throughout the day varies dramatically from night to, you know, from dawn through, you know, maybe clouds coming over through dusk. So the ambient light level changes dramatically, and there was no picking. I tried for a while just picking a number of saying if it goes past this number, it means it was open. Didn't work. So I actually wrote some sophisticated software that was a little calculus. It just basically checks for the rate of change of the light. So it actually constantly monitors the ambient current light, and then it looks for a rate of change that's beyond a certain value. So if it's dawn and it's barely light at all, it might be down at 5. But if it changes up to 10 really quickly, that means it was opened. During the day it might be noon. It might be at 75, even when it's closed. And then if it changes up to 90, then that means it changed. So I actually had to write some software to actually track ambient light throughout the day, and now it's worked flawlessly since then. And that was actually pretty interesting problem to deal with. And if you look closely, you'll see I actually put tape covering up all the little holes in this thing to try to make it completely dark inside. But there's no way in a mailbox to make it dark inside. So anyway, I don't know. Any more questions about the mailbox?
So maybe we'll wrap it up here. Gary, if you have like 5 or 10 minutes, maybe we'll just keep you. And then if you have any questions, maybe you can ask Gary after. Thank you very much, Gary.